Trade deals might sound distant, but they shape the prices you pay and the jobs in your community. At their core, these agreements set the rules for how countries buy and sell with each other. Right now, the US and China, the world's two largest economies, are locked in high-stakes negotiations. Their relationship is a mix of cooperation and competition, but tensions have recently escalated. Both sides are working to replace a temporary truce on tariffs with a lasting agreement. Top officials from both countries are meeting in Madrid to hash out the details. The goal, a stable, fair framework for years to come. The issues are complex, ranging from trade deficits to technology ownership and the flow of synthetic opioids. But one issue now dominates: overproduction. US leaders believe this is at the heart of their economic challenges with China. Understanding overproduction is key to understanding the entire debate. Overproduction, sometimes called overcapacity, is a straightforward concept. It's when a country manufactures far more goods than it can possibly use or sell within its own borders. This means factories keep producing, even when there's no real demand at home, leading to a surplus of products piling up. To picture this, think of a bakery that bakes 1,000 cupcakes every single day, but only has enough customers to buy 100. The rest of the cupcakes just sit there, unsold, or the bakery tries to sell them elsewhere, maybe even at a loss. US leaders and many economists argue that China does this on purpose. They say the Chinese government encourages its factories to keep producing huge surpluses, not just for their own market, but specifically to export abroad and dominate global industries. This is made possible by strong government support, things like cheap loans, tax breaks, and direct subsidies. These policies allow Chinese factories to keep their machines running and workers employed, even when making more products doesn't make financial sense. We've seen this pattern play out in industries like steel, where Chinese mills have produced far more than the world needs, and more recently in solar panels, where China has become the world's dominant supplier. When China floods the global market with these excess goods, prices drop everywhere. This makes it extremely difficult for companies in other countries to compete, since they can't match the low prices made possible by government support and massive scale. While this strategy helps China create jobs and grow its economy, it can have serious consequences abroad. Factories in other countries may shut down, workers lose jobs, and entire industries can shrink or disappear. It's a bit like a rival bakery suddenly giving away cupcakes for pennies. Customers flock to the cheaper option, and the original bakery struggles to survive, even if their cupcakes are just as good or better. The result is fierce and often unfair competition. Local businesses can't keep up, and the market becomes distorted, with prices that don't reflect the true cost of production. That's why US leaders say overproduction is at the heart of their trade concerns with China. They see it as a major problem that needs to be addressed to protect American jobs and industries. Overproduction isn't just a business tactic, it's a complex, global economic challenge. It affects trade balances, sparks political tensions, and can even lead to trade wars between countries. When markets are flooded with cheap goods, industries around the world can suffer. Factories close, workers lose their livelihoods, and communities are left struggling to adapt. That's why overproduction is front and center in global trade talks. It's not just about economics, it's about jobs, fairness, and the future of entire industries worldwide. Why does it matter if Chinese factories make too much? At first glance, it might seem like a distant problem. Factories on the other side of the world producing more than they can sell. But the ripple effects of overproduction in China reach all the way to American shores, impacting businesses, workers, and even the choices we make as consumers. US companies operate in a market-driven system, making decisions based on supply, demand, and real costs. They have to balance their books, pay fair wages, and invest in innovation to stay competitive. Every product made in America reflects these realities, from the price tag to the jobs it supports. Chinese companies, backed by state support, can sell goods at prices Americans can't match. With government subsidies and policies that encourage massive output, Chinese manufacturers can flood global markets with low-cost products, often selling below what it actually costs to make them. This isn't healthy competition. It's a structural disadvantage that puts American businesses in a tough spot. Competing with artificially low prices can force US companies to cut jobs, reduce wages, or even shut down entirely. The US has seen it before. Steel, aluminum, solar panels. Industries hit hard by cheap imports, leading to factory closures and job losses. Communities that once thrived on manufacturing have struggled to recover, and the effects are still felt today. Now the worry is that China's overproduction will target future industries: electric vehicles, batteries, green tech. These are the sectors expected to drive the next wave of economic growth and create high-quality jobs for Americans. The US wants to lead in these fields, but fears China's playbook could stifle American innovation before it starts. If American companies can't compete, they may never get the chance to scale up, invest in research, or bring new ideas to market. The stakes are high. It's about jobs, leadership, and economic independence. It's about whether the US will shape the industries of tomorrow or be forced to rely on others for critical technologies and products. If overproduction continues unchecked, America risks long-term dependency on Chinese supply chains. This could leave the US vulnerable to disruptions, shortages, and even political pressure in the future. That's why this issue is so urgent for US leaders. It's not just about trade statistics or economic theory. It's about protecting American workers, securing the nation's future, and ensuring that the US remains a global leader. It's not just about trade. It's about the future of American industry, the strength of our communities, and the ability to chart our own economic destiny. Overproduction isn't just numbers. It hits real people. Behind every statistic are families, communities, and dreams put on hold. When factories close, it's not just a job lost. It's a way of life disrupted, a sense of purpose shaken. When US factories face a flood of cheap imports, sales drop and jobs are lost. American-made products struggle to compete with lower-priced goods, and companies are forced to make tough decisions just to survive. Layoffs follow, and sometimes entire factories shut down. For many workers, these jobs aren't just paychecks. They're the foundation of their family's security and their own sense of dignity. This devastates families and local economies, especially in towns where factories are major employers. The loss ripples outward, touching every corner of the community. The ripple effect is huge. Local businesses lose customers, tax revenues fall, and public services suffer. Schools, libraries, and emergency services all feel the pinch, making recovery even harder for struggling towns. Children grow up seeing fewer opportunities, and young people often leave in search of work elsewhere, draining these communities of their future. It's not just an American problem. Factories in Europe, Japan, and Mexico face the same pressures. The challenge of competing with heavily subsidized industries is global, not local. That's why many US allies share these concerns. They too worry about the long-term impact on their workers and economies. Overproduction creates a global glut, driving down prices and destabilizing industries everywhere. It's a cycle that can lead to trade tensions and economic uncertainty across continents. The system is supposed to reward innovation and efficiency, not just volume. When the playing field is tilted, it discourages investment in new ideas and better products. When one country dominates through subsidies, it distorts the rules for everyone. Fair competition becomes impossible, and the global market suffers. The result? A race to the bottom, where quality and innovation lose out to sheer scale. Workers everywhere are left with fewer options and less hope for the future. American leaders say this threatens not just workers, but the fairness of the global economy. They argue that without action, the cycle will only get worse. That's why they're demanding change, calling for new rules, stronger enforcement, and a level playing field for workers everywhere. US leaders are demanding more than quick fixes. They want real change. Their top priority: binding requirements for China to reduce overproduction. This means enforceable rules, not vague promises. They want mechanisms to monitor China's output, track subsidies, and measure exports. If China doesn't comply, there must be consequences, like automatic tariffs. The goal is prevention, not just punishment after the fact. This is a major shift. Instead of reacting to damage, the US wants to stop it before it starts. The focus is on strategic sectors: electric vehicles, green tech, and more. American leaders see this as essential to protecting jobs and industries. They want to deal with real teeth, ensuring fair competition for years to come. It's about setting the rules for the future, not just patching up the past. That's the new approach in Washington. China sees things very differently. Beijing rejects US claims of unfair trade and overproduction, calling them excuses for protectionism. Chinese officials argue their manufacturing success comes from innovation and efficiency, not subsidies. They say global demand for affordable green tech is huge, and China is simply meeting it. From their view, producing goods at lower cost is a competitive advantage, not a crime. They question why Western companies are praised for efficiency, but China is criticized. China accuses the US of trying to hold back its rise and maintain dominance. Still, Beijing is aware of some internal imbalances and has taken steps to address price wars at home. But officially, China insists it has the right to develop its economy as it sees fit. The standoff continues, with both sides defending their positions. In a divided Washington, concern over China's trade practices unites both parties. Democrats and Republicans agree. Overproduction is a threat to American economic security. Recent letters and policy moves show this unity isn't tied to one president or party. The issue affects workers in every state, red or blue. Lawmakers from industrial regions have heard the same story: jobs lost to cheap imports. This shared experience has forged a tough, bipartisan stance in trade talks. China knows this unity means the U.S. position won't change with the next election. That consistency is a powerful tool in negotiations. The U.S. knows it can't take on China alone. Building an international coalition is key. Allies in Europe, Japan, and South Korea face the same pressures from Chinese exports. By joining forces, these countries can demand change together. A united front is much harder for China to ignore. The strategy focused pressure on China, not on friendly nations. A strong coalition can coordinate trade defenses and negotiate as one. If the world's biggest markets demand fair rules, China will have to listen. International cooperation is seen as the best long-term solution. These trade talks may seem distant, but they affect your life. The outcome shapes American jobs, local economies, and the prices you pay. At stake is the future of U.S. industry and the rules of global trade. U.S. leaders want enforceable rules to level the playing field. China sees these demands as protectionism, not fairness. The U.S. is building a coalition, showing this is a global issue. Bipartisan unity signals America's seriousness. These talks are about more than tariffs. They're about the future of green tech and advanced manufacturing. Ultimately, it's about fairness and opportunity for American workers and businesses. That's why this story matters to all of us.